Hello everyone, I'm Ben, and welcome back to the channel. And tonight I wanted to talk to you about something I think uh, gets passed up by a lot of Democrats, a lot of left-leaning individuals, and that's guns and gun violence, and basically the entire community around guns. All right, whether it's the culture or the control about guns, I wanted to talk to you about it. All right, because not many people do anymore. All right, we get caught up in a lot of things, and I decided that tonight I wanted to talk about guns. This is one of the videos that inspired me to want to talk about gun control, gun violence, and everything about this. There's this lady here, and they are on what looks to be a Facebook Live or something. I'm not gonna play all of it. I'm actually gonna turn it down a little bit because I don't know if anyone who knows anything about guns is watching this, but I want you to try and just personally count how many times she flags her friend or daughter here. Right? Let me restart it. Ready? I'm gonna count one. I'm gonna count with you. Maybe two there. Three.
Hey, what's up with you? What's up with you?
By the way, I'm not even counting how many times she's flagging the camera or whatever is in front of the camera, because who knows.
I said, what's up with you?
Four, she pulls it out to the side.
I swear to God.
Five, six. She's continuously aiming it at her.
On the porch.
She sits on the porch by herself for a little bit. Keeps playing with the gun. She pulls it around, flags her daughter again with it.
Fully clear. Oh, cuz, get down there, cuz, get up.
And that's the amount of fragging. So I counted about 7 or 8 different flagging events happening there. And overall, you can tell in the video she's just being obnoxious with the gun, and flailing it around the neighborhood and everything like that. And the only good thing I can say to her is that at least she has good trigger discipline. The entire video, I skipped around in it, but the entire video, she has her finger off that trigger resting on the side of the gun. That's the only good thing you can say about it. And in fact, one of the comments reads that she's actually practicing gun safety, noticing that her finger was never on the trigger. Just because your finger is not on the trigger does not mean that you're practicing gun safety. If I walk into a Walmart and start flailing a gun around, but at least I have my finger off the trigger, I start flailing it around, I'm still gonna get arrested and charged and aimed guns at by cops because I have a gun out. All right, and this brings me into the ignorance about guns, all right? And sure, there are ignorant people handling guns, but there are also people who are very important who should know a thing about guns if they are going to be discussing guns, such as this lady, Shyla Jackson Lee, who has a famous quote, which is,
I've held an AR-15 in my hand. I wish I had it. It is as heavy as 10 boxes that you might be moving.
what? 10 boxes. 10 moving boxes. She says an AR-15 is as heavy as 10 moving boxes. What the fuck are you talking about? It's not even as heavy as 10 shoe boxes. Alright? AR-15s are light and maneuverable. You want to know why? Because soldiers use it for war. Alright? If guns were heavy and not accessible to carry, guess what? The wars we fight wouldn't be successful. All right? If we didn't have maneuverable weaponry, we would be stuck in the mud and shit. We wouldn't have an expeditionary force. We would have a stationary force. But I'm going to get into heavier topics very fast here. All right? I could sit here and laugh at Democrats and laugh at politicians all night long with you guys and discuss how people can be ignorant with firearms, all right? And that is, we're still going to be talking about that, but on a more serious subject. I live in Connecticut, for those of you who do not know. And Connecticut, a couple of years back, had a incident called Sandy Hook. And it was a school shooting of which many kids died, and unfortunately, the biggest thing that revolves around that tragedy now, besides the awareness that the fathers and mothers of the victims try to express to people, not only is it that, but the legacy is not the memory that is shaved into Connecticut and the surrounding peoples of the town. Every single one of us in Connecticut still remember that. I was in school. I was in elementary school when that happened. I was around the same grade of the kids that got shot, and I remember being in a very long lockdown because of Sandy Hook, and us kids didn't know what was going on at the time, but like my dad told me later on and things like that, and it's still scarred into a lot of our parents' memory here. Our younger generation here in Connecticut don't really remember it too bad because we weren't really told what would happen. If you're in elementary school, you shouldn't be getting told that there was a school shooting. All right, but all of our parents, all of my friends' parents, they all have that deep sense of dread when it comes to sending their kids to school. And I think a lot of parents nowadays have that deep dread, even if it's not as prevalent in Connecticut anymore because of the laws we've passed. A lot of what has happened is a lot of the parents dread to see us go to school. I'm gonna get personal here. Like, my high school was very close to where I lived, and my father always said if there was a school shooting, I would have come down and he would have been the first to solve the shooting before the cops even arrived. All right. And, you know, I was always told, I wasn't even really told as a kid. It was just one of the second natures you had where you found the way out. You figured out, all right, I'm on the second floor. Can I jump out of this window and not break anything? Can I fall into the bushes and be okay? Is there a place I can hide in this room? Are my friends with me and we can jump anyone who tries to come in? It's things like that, you think about sometimes, all right? I had a pact with my friends in high school that if we were going to be in a situation like a school shooting, that all four of us, my main friends, were going to bomb rush the school shooter and take him down or die trying. All right? We were going to go down. And I also told my friends, if you are not in a situation where you can see that, you will see me outside running and you will be able to come with me and you could shelter in place at my house. Screw waiting around for the cops to come. Screw sheltering in place inside a classroom. Run like hell, because that's what I'm about to do. All right. So with that being said, I want to talk to you about the lawmaking culture about firearms. All right. Specifically, the incompetency of the left and the flagrant how would you say, ideology that shelters any wrongdoing of firearms and people in the eyes of the Republicans. For instance, I want to talk about assault rifles and assault weapons. All right. Assault rifles are things like, well, for instance, the STG-44 was the first. Basically, you can imagine an assault rifle is a long gun that can do continuous automatic or semi-automatic fire, and usually has a magazine attached to it, of which you can unhook from the gun and attach a new one, cock it again, and you're firing again. All right? It's not a hard thing to really conceptualize, but I think my explanation was pretty sound. So that's what an assault rifle is. It's something of that variation. All right? They could be a little bit smaller, they could be a little bit bigger, but they span the width of your arms, and they are to be used handheld. There's small machine guns, which are like MAC-10s and stuff like that, which could be even used with one hand if you're like insane, or people call them LMGs in video games and stuff. That's the things that like you mount to a platform and you're all right, things like that. We're not talking about those. We're talking about assault rifles. However, the ATF and the Democrats and the lawmakers in general of our nation have a thing called assault weapons, which aren't necessarily assault rifles. Assault weapons could be anything used by the military. It could be anything with a detachable magazine, anything with a pistol grip, anything with a flash suppressor, anything with a barrel shroud, which is, if you do not know what a barrel shroud is, aka a few of our lawmakers, it is the shroud, or picture a secondary barrel on top of the barrel, which has holes in it. That's what you will look at. That's what it looks like. All right. And assault weapons could literally be anything. It literally says that there is no clear, constant definition of what an assault weapon is, and it could also include semi-automatic firearms. So, literally, it's up into the air of the interpretation of whoever the hell wants to talk about an assault weapon. And every single time I hear assault weapon, I want to drive a nail into my forehead, because it would be much more preferable to the migraine I get every time I hear the word. All right. And actually, I'm just seeing in here they talk about Sandy Hook in December of 2012, the Sandy Hook school shooting. Many news organizations ran stories about assault weapons, talking about the varying definitions and presenting varying options of whether or not they should be banned again at the federal level. All right, they were banned once before, and I believe I have a picture of that somewhere here. I'm not gonna. I'll go in order. I'll go in order, guys. It was basically showing the before and after killings with assault rifles, assault weapons. Excuse me. See, I already slipped up. Assault weapons showing a slight decrease, or I'll say a slight moderation of shootings, and then as soon as the assault weapons ban was lifted, it has skyrocketed again. With that being said, I have already told you that I reside in Connecticut. So our governor is named Ned Lamont, and Ned Lamont is pushing for a bill at the moment to ban Glock switches on Glocks. Now, if you don't know what Glock switches are, let me show you a little gun diagram and try to break it down for you as best as I can. Basically, you have a trigger, a firing pin, a spring, and the what do they call it? The firing pin. They have a spring which is attached to the firing pin. All right. You pull the trigger, which activates the firing pin, pulls down on the firing pin, which activates the spring, which is like a hammer, if you imagine like a revolver, hits the round and makes the gun fire. All right. What a switch does is it holds down on the firing pin, so as soon as you pull the trigger, the firing pin is already activated, so the spring is just going to keep going. Excuse me. Basically, the inner workings of the gun will make it so that it turns from I pull the trigger, bam, one shot, to I hold down the trigger and I unleash all the rounds in my magazine. You can already tell it's late and my brain isn't here, and I'm trying to explain guns as best as I can and not get flamed in the comments for not knowing the terminologies in my brain at the moment. Basically, it makes it so you can pull the trigger, hold it down, and it will keep firing. All right. And with this, you could add a drum magazine to have like 50 rounds in it, 50 bullets in it. And so you'll basically have a handheld, basically a mini assault weapon. I don't know if I'm using that term correctly because there's no correct way you can use the term. Basically, they want to ban automatic pistols, which I can get behind. All right, I don't think anyone should be having a automatic pistol, because if you have seen any videos of someone with a Glock switch shooting, it's basically like, imagine holding your arm and then Mike Tyson punches you right here and your arm just gets kicked right up. All right, that's the recoil on this fucking. It's like, duh! And there is no accuracy at all. You basically just hunker down as best as you can and you hold onto it as best as you can. But it's gonna fling your hand up because it's not, a Glock isn't meant to fire automatically. It's meant to fire semi-automatically. And by the way, on top of this, I have to roast Glock a little bit. Your gun kind of fucking sucks. All you are is a body for attachments. Sorry, it has to be said that Sig Sauer has better guns. A little bit of Glock hate for everyone. I agree with this. All right, we should have this outlawed. All right, but I want you to know it's not going to stop people who are committing crimes with switches. They already tried to ban the switch, and what Glock did was modify the pistols. So the newer pistols no longer work with the old Glock switch. However, some guy came along and immediately figured out how to make the Glock switch work again. Made a new version of the Glock switch, and now the Glock switch is back to working again. Oh, whoopsie-doo. You found a new way to make it automatic. Shocker. So, what will this do? Alright? Basically, what I'm picturing in my brain is if someone gets stopped and they find a Glock with a switch on it, you can automatically arrest them. Which makes sense because in my eyes, everyone with a switch with their Glock is probably up to no good already. So I'm just going to say maybe it's a good bill, maybe it's not a good bill. What I'm going to say is it's not going to stop people who are already committing crimes. If you have a Glock with a switch, you are probably already committing crimes or doing drive-bys or doing something, all right? Something along those lines. It has a reputation for being used with gangsters, and the reputation is well earned because that's usually where you find them. This is a better picture of a Glock with a switch on it. For those of you who are interested, that's what it looks like. It goes inside the gun and holds down the firing pin. I'm going to move on to mass shootings again. I'm jumping around a little bit here. What my Glock with a switch bill here in Connecticut was supposed to demonstrate to you was our lawmakers are constantly trying to find new ways in order to solve this crisis that we have here in America. The crisis I'm talking about is our mass shootings. All right? In 2026 alone, 3 months in, we're 3 months in. All right? As of recording, it's 3/12/26. All right, so we're halfway through the third month of this year. We already have 57 mass shootings. 57. 74 people have died this year. 190 have been wounded. All right, that's close to 300 people whose lives have been altered due to the course of gun violence in America. 300 casualties, whether it's wounded or dead. I need you to think about that for a second. There have been more casualties, wounded or dead, in 2026 than days we've even gone by yet in 2026. Just in America. And I want you to know this. This is purely an American issue. All right? California with 277 cases of mass shootings. Excuse me. Let me move my camera here so you can get a better picture of what I'm fucking talking about. Of just school shootings. From 1996 to 2025, there have been very close to 300 school shootings in California alone. Every single state has at least one. Every single state has this problem. All right, it's not a red or blue issue. It's particularly not really mattering what side you're on here. It basically just shows you that the entirety of America is getting shot up in our schools. And I want you to look at the next map I'm about to show you. I like maps because they break down very easily the problems, all right? Take a look at this map and just picture in your head. Picture it in your head that over the last 60 years, there have been 2,980 cases of school shootings. And now in Europe, there's been 166. Look at how blue this map is. All right. The worst offender here is Italy with 32. Let's go back over to America real quick. What our normal is 32. Connecticut has 29. California has the strictest gun laws, has 277. Massachusetts, some of the most strictest gun laws, 29. All right. Texas, with almost no gun regulation, 237. Florida, you can basically walk into any store you want and pick up a gun and walk out at the age of 18, 169. Ohio, 143. Fucking Pennsylvania, 128. New York with 119. All right, Tennessee with 109. These are wild numbers. We have states that are very close to clearing the entirety of Europe's school shooting numbers. You know, you're telling me that Ohio alone is only about 25 or 22 school shootings away from clearing all of Europe? We have Texas and California, which have already cleared Europe and surpassed them. All right. Florida is only 7 shootings away. And guess what? We'll probably hit that milestone by the end of the year. And it is infuriating. It's infuriating. All right. As a kid who grew up as the same age as those Sandy Hook victims, all right, and had the normalcy of school shootings in everyday life, it was just a casual thing to think about of, oh shit, how will I get out of a school shooting in this school? All right. I went to one elementary school, 2 middle schools, and a high school. I went to 4 different schools in my educational journey, all right, of K through 12. 4 schools. And guess what? Those were, I'm going to eliminate my elementary one because I didn't really I didn't really think about that while I was in elementary school. So I had 3 schools of which I planned a way out. All right. I'm not going to name my schools. All right. But I can tell you in 3 of my schools, that's 3 different times I had to think of different routes in every single one of my classrooms of a new way to get out. How do I escape this place? Where would I go afterwards? I would probably run into the forest, or I would run down onto the main road and keep running, or I would run into the high school, which was nearby, or I would run to my house. Whatever it was, I would try to find the way out. That shouldn't be the fucking normal. All right, you should be able to go to school and think about, I don't know, what's for lunch today, or my grades, something like that, something normal. That's not, how am I going to stop myself from getting murdered today? All right, because I had many days where I had thought about that. There were many days where there were threats called into my schools. There were days where, just random things has happened where people were being mistaken as threats to the school. All right. There was one time in high school, my entire high school locked down for about an hour because one of our classmates said something that was misconstrued as a school shooting threat or as a threat to the school in general. All right. And I was actually legit scared because I'm going to tell you this personal story here. In high school, we had a lockdown, and I was inside the gymnasium locker room. I was inside the boys' locker room with a bunch of other. I think actually the entire class, both girls and boys, went into the boys' locker room for the lockdown, and there were two guys who I was at the time I was a sophomore, and there were two guys in there who were seniors. These two seniors, knowing full well this was a actual lockdown, this was not a test. For all intensive purposes, there could have been a actual school shooter in the building. They were both on their phones watching TikTok without headphones. Through the speaker of their phones, they were listening to TikTok. These two guys showing each other. They were sitting on the bench showing each other TikToks at like not a quiet volume. I mean, like, they were fully blasting TikToks in the middle of the gymnasium locker room. And I was thinking in my head, I'm going to be so pissed if I get fucking killed because two dipshits couldn't get off of TikTok for 30 fucking minutes. I was thinking that I was sitting there like smoldering in my head. I'm like, if I get fucking shot in the chest because of these two morons, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind and haunt these people for fucking ever. That's what was going through my mind. I was like, I'm like 3 seconds away from punching these two in the head because I'm not getting murdered because you want to watch TikTok and I would like to not get shot with an AR-15 today. I know I'm laughing about it now, but it was serious in the moment. I was sitting there with my friend. I was like, dude, if they fucking hear that shit, we are fucking dead. All right? Because we're all thinking it was a school shooting. That's the first thing that goes through everyone's brains. And asking the teacher, what's happening? And then going, I don't know. I think it might be a school shooting. All right? And I wasn't there at the time, but there was a second floor in my high school. And during the same lockdown, my friend reported to me that one of the teachers at the time ran down the hallway screaming, "This one's a real one." I mean, how can you not be traumatized from that? How can you like go back to school the next day and be like, "Oh yeah, everything's fine"? And we did. We went back to school the next day and we were laughing about it and everything. But at the time, we were all thinking, "Oh my god, I am one wooden door away from a 5.57 to the skull." And that's something that no one should have to think about, especially kids inside of a school. All right? So the question is, how do you solve the gun crisis in America? Do you do the gun control route? No. I'm going to be honest with you. All right? We are in a country where I'm going to say the majority, because I am included in this list, love guns. All right? I personally love guns. All right? I live in the second most restrictive gun state in the entirety of America. I still love guns. All right? I love shooting them. I love everything about them. I love customizing them. I love learning the history of guns. You know me, I'm a history guy. I have a bunch of history stuff. I love the history of guns. I love the making of guns. I actually thought of getting into reloading as a hobby. And it is very discouraging to see my side, or what I consider to be more my side, the Democrats, to be so not only ignorant about guns, but willingly dismissing of guns and vilifying of guns. They tend to paint guns in a horrible light, and not for an unjust reason. Again, look at this map and tell me that there's not a problem with guns in America. The problem with guns in America is, if you're asking me, the age of which you can acquire them, how easily you can acquire them, and the people acquiring them. All right? Maybe you shouldn't be 18 to acquire a rifle. Maybe you can be 18 and acquire a pistol. Or you can only acquire revolvers. Maybe that. All right? I'm talking limitations here. And the Republicans will always come out and say, oh, that will never stop a bad guy with a gun. The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Okay, we have SROs. For those of you who don't know, SROs are basically cops inside schools. We have cops inside schools in almost every single state in the nation. All right, I had a cop inside my high school, my middle school. Hell, I think I actually had a cop inside my elementary school, or just right outside. I think they always sat in their car. But no matter what, I always had a cop nearby at my school. And guess what? They didn't do much. All right. Take a look at this board. All right. We have school resource officers everywhere in the nation, yet somehow we still have school shootings. Think about Robb Elementary. All right. If those of you can remember past a couple months, about what was it, 1 or 2 years ago, there was a shooting called down in Texas. At Robb Elementary, ROBB Elementary, where the officers sat outside and basically made a barricaded target out of the suspect, out of the shooter, and he barricaded himself in a classroom full of kids, of which you know what happens with school shooters and kids. That's what he did, and then he killed himself. Or no, I believe it was Border Patrol who came in and shot them. So props to Border Patrol for that one. I'll give them props for that. All right. So we can't just sit here and think of nothing and do nothing. We can't send thoughts and prayers because guess what? Your thoughts of the dead kids do not bring them back to life. And the prayers that this doesn't happen again doesn't work because it keeps fucking happening. How do we realistically stop it? If half of the country, more than half of the country, is not willing to give up firearms, and sometimes even strongmens themselves into a position where we cannot manufacture any sort of legislation on gun laws, the other side is too pussyfooted to do anything, and also too ignorant to come up with a viable solution. What do you do then? What do you do? All right. I gave you 3. I said limit the age, limit the accessibility of what firearms you can get at a certain age, and also, what was my third? Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. Limit the access amount of the people who can get it. For instance, this draws me into my next few topics here. A couple of you may have remembered the Stoneman Douglas school shooting. A lot of people died. It was in 2018, and it was done by a scumbag named Nikolas Cruz. I kind of don't even like saying that person's name because it just gives them fame. He killed 17 people in the shooting. This is a man named Rusty Cage, or that's not his name, that's what his channel is called, Rusty Cage. If you do not know who Rusty Cage is, he's like, I'm just going to say he's an edgy guy who makes goth content, alright? If you've ever heard the Knife Game song, he made that. He made Let's Learn How to Tie a Noose. He's also gone famous on TikTok lately for making a guillotine. He's an edgy YouTuber, all right? He was found inside the cell phone content of Nikolas Cruz. All right, let me scroll down and show you that. All right. Where is it? Here it is, right here. Along with racist remarks from the school shooter, such as SS glorification and Confederate glorification, you have Rusty Cage in here. And I'm going to tell you this. These things are not indicative of someone who's going to become a school shooter or a mass shooter in any sort of way. All right. I'm going to tell you this. I've watched every single one of those videos that Nikolas Cruz watched. And guess what? I'm not a school shooter. I didn't want to kill anyone. I didn't have violent tendencies after this. And guess what? I've seen the Knife Game songs. I've watched them. I actually used to remember the lyrics to those things. I used to listen to it so many times. I never did the Knife Game because I was too scared of hurting my own hand. All right, I just didn't want to hurt myself, so I never did the game. And in here there's there's white supremacist stuff, but also in here they make the case of glorifying guns as worrying. Stuff like, how to properly, you can't really see it too well, but it's how to properly hold a pistol, or videos, gun videos, or different memes with guns in it. This is him with his gun shooting a raccoon. Here's him posing with his guns. All right. And then if you look at his notes are really where he starts talking about it. Stuff like control your breathing and trigger pull. You're the one who sights in the rifle for yourself. Adjust the scope to your shooting ability. The basketball court is full of targets still thinking of ways to kill people. Okay? And obviously he has other really horrible shit in his things. But his searches sometimes get a little weird. Things like shooting people massacre. All right? He has other things in here too. Let me search it real quick for you. We'll go through it together. He researches the school shooting in Marshall County. He researches Columbine. All right? He has pictures with himself in military gear. He has internet search history of pumped up kicks. And he was, a young guy, so of course he has porn. Himself in more military gear. All right. He has search phrases, is killing people easy? Excuse me? Is killing people easy? And also, this one's just wild. I'm going to highlight if you ever want to read that one. That one's kind of crazy. Killing birds, taking weird selfies, which is not a crime. Homicidal thoughts and urges, followed up by various sites with rifle scopes. Videos of depicting people defending themselves with guns. All right, this guy's into guns. All right. Guess what? I'm gonna say, I'm into guns too. All right, I told this before. I'm into guns. I like guns. I've researched some of the things of which he's typed before. I've also typed. I have watched YouTube documentaries on the school shootings in Columbine. The assholes like these two. I've researched these two before, and guess what? Me looking up this Wikipedia page gives me the exact same search history as him. All right. I have Columbine High School Massacre in my search history. But it's things like these that maybe the FBI should look out for. All right? The Patriot Act has already been enacted, so why not go a little bit further? Why not make sure that we're all not going to shoot up each other? All right? Better yet, what needs to happen, and I'm going to say this because a lot of states don't have it, is background checks and mental health wellness checks. All right? In Connecticut, in order to acquire a pistol permit, which is what you need in order to have long guns and pistols, it qualifies for both. With a pistol permit, you get pistols and long guns to carry, which includes things like assault rifles. With that, all you have to do is fill out some paperwork, give your ID and stuff to the cops, that they put you in the database, and then you go and take a class. And from what I've been reported to, I have not taken the class yet because I'm not 21. You have to be 21 in order to take the pistol permit. I can take the long gun permit and get a long gun, but I can't carry a pistol. Whatever. The test, I have been told, is stupidly easy. I'm talking brain dead, numbingly stupid. Things like, when you have a loaded firearm, should you or should you not point it at another person that you are not intending to shoot? If you have a loaded firearm, should you look down the barrel? Is it legal to open carry in Connecticut? Which it's not, but I don't think that one's on the test. Don't worry about it. All right? That's the scale I'm talking about. Also, by the way, it's an open book test. They go over all the answers, you mark down all the answers, and then you have all the answers next to you, and then you take the test open book. So you have the answers, your test. Huh. Well. Done. And now you can carry any gun you want to in Connecticut as long as they apply to the Connecticut state procedures and restrictions, which is very, very constrictive in Connecticut. I'm saying with all this because an idiot can do it. All right, a fucking brain dead idiot who maybe shouldn't have a gun can have a gun. But I agree with the Second Amendment of your right to bear arms shall not be infringed. All right, shall not be infringed. That is very vague wording. All right, your right to vote shall also not be infringed. But guess what? You have to register to vote. Sometimes you have to show ID to vote. All right, they're trying to pass a law in order to make it so you have to show at least 2 or 3 forms of ID in order to vote. Guess what? Some states you can walk inside of a gun store, hand $300, and walk out with a gun. It's been done before, and it's very easy to do. All right. So, what are we walking away with here? What is my 40-minute video about? I'm here to tell you that basically the Democrats need to smarten up and educate themselves about guns first before you try and make laws about the guns. All right? Talk to guys who like guns. I know it's hard, but if you are a Democrat, I'm going to say this, all right? I think a lot of gun owners would actually respect you a lot if you walked into their gun shop or you walked into their shooting range and said, "Hello, I am a Democrat running for your district, and I would like to learn about guns. I don't know anything about guns. Maybe I haven't even ever shot a gun before. I would like to shoot guns with you and learn your perspective on guns. I would like to know what you think I should do to make our nation safer for everyone and not exclude you and your guns. We need to have a nation that can have guns, but also can take accountability and preemptive steps to make sure that we don't have as many school shootings in 1 year as Europe does in the last fucking 60. All right? We shouldn't be having these problems. We're the only nation with these problems, so it's a national issue that we need to solve. Republicans, I need you to smarten up too. You need to realize guns aren't the Messiah. Jesus doesn't need guns, and you certainly should fucking unequip yourself of your unearned pride carrying your guns. All right? You shouldn't take pride in your guns. Okay? Back down and just try and meet in the middle for once with Democrats. The Democrats, I'm requiring them to smarten up. Republicans, guess what? You're actually very, very smart when it comes to firearms. So maybe get with your Democrat colleagues and educate them instead of yelling at them and stonewalling them at every chance you can get. If we all actually collectively worked together on this gun issue, I think we could actually put away a lot of problems and at least a lot of the nasty attitude that we have when we start talking about it. For the people, we need to recognize the early warning signs in our kids. It's hard to say, and it's hard for parents to think about, but every parent should one day think, could my son or daughter, probably son, could my son be a school shooter? Eric and Dylan glorified guns. All right, I like guns, but my whole personality isn't guns. All right, I can go shooting once a month or so and enjoy it. I'm not going to spend every day after school fondling my Tech 9 and my AK-47 and mixing bombs in the basement. If you have early warning signs like that, maybe sit your kid down, bring your kid to therapy, talk to them about their emotions, make sure that they're doing well in school, make sure they're not getting bullied in school, solve the bullying crisis if they are getting bullied. And kids, I'm not putting the blame on kids, but if you're having bad thoughts, go and talk to someone. And don't just sit there and stew. Stewing is the worst thing you can do, because it only hurts you and it only hurts yourself until you get to the point where you snap like these fucking assholes and go and kill someone or a lot of people. Basically, we need to smarten up across the board. Our government needs to lock in and actually recognize the gun culture that we have, because we have a huge gun culture here in America, and we need to recognize the gun culture and work within the system to solve a gun problem. It is also a mental health issue with our children. It starts early with these school shooters and these mass shooters, where they did not get attention in school, or they felt like a loser in school. They felt neglected and isolated and alone and bullied, or they feel not enough, and so they start thinking about these ideologies where they're superior, like that asshole Nicholas Cruz. He thought that he was superior. He had SS videos in his search history. He had the song SS Monster Shirt in Find Us Land in there, all right, which means the SS marches into the enemy land. I like history. I've listened to that song too. Guess what? I've listened to it too, because I like World War II. And guess what? That song is very threatening. It would work in a war. You don't need to listen to it. I don't need to listen to it. He didn't need to listen to it. No one needs to listen to it. It's not supposed to be your history report. Guess what? I had 1 week of World War II in my history class. By the way, my history class of all years, K through 12, one week in total. Let that simmer. These people start to feel inferior. They start to feel bad about themselves, and they want to take it out on the world. And when it gets to that point, an easy access firearm is the easiest thing that they can do. All right, if you're mad at the world and you hate everyone in it, and you don't care what the hell happens to you because you're already thinking about killing yourself, and then you walk down the street and you go to Cabela's and they have a gun rack with an AR-15 on it and a sale on magazines and ammo, guess what? All I need is an ID, or maybe not even that. Maybe I'm in Florida like Nicholas Cruz was. Here's $800. Thanks. And guess what? You don't care how much money you're spending because you're about to kill yourself. You spend all the money you have on you. You walk out with the ammo and the guns. You walk into your local school. That's how it happens. Every single time that's how it happens. All right? Maybe there should be a law against bulk buying of ammunition and rifles. Maybe there should be a wait period like there is in Connecticut. There's a wait period of 2 weeks in Connecticut. You have to wait 2 weeks in Connecticut to get the gun that you purchased already. You buy a gun in Connecticut, say I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that looks like a gun. Picture this knife as a gun. I go to the counter. I say, here, I would like this gun. All right. I'm taking your money. Can I have my gun? No. You have to wait 2 weeks. 2 weeks? That's a long time. That's enough time for me to simmer down, maybe. That's my thought process. A 2-week time period would be enough for me to get over a lot of grudges, all right? I have never gotten to the point where I've wanted to kill someone before. Never, because guess what? I'm a normal person. But if someone got to that level of I want to kill someone, they went to a gun store and bought the gun, maybe the 2 weeks notice for their brain, maybe it'll take a moment for them to go home, sit down, and go, I shouldn't throw my life away to kill someone. And maybe that is all they needed. Maybe they needed a moment to relax and chill and realize, I don't need to kill someone. When if you had given them that gun the same day, they would have went out and shot that person immediately. Overall, I've said my piece. I've said what I thought about guns. I've said what I think needs to happen. My voice is going. And so I need to end the video here before I sound like a grizzly bear trying to talk to you about gun safety. So anyways, I hope someone important listens to this and takes away something. I hope I can encourage a better conversation, a better thought process for the left, a more considerate approach for the right, and a more moderate take on what should happen with gun control, other than I have the right to bear arms and we should throw everyone who wants a gun in prison. We need to meet in the middle here, guys. Thank you guys for watching the video. I know I skipped through a lot of hard subjects, and I laughed through it, and I smiled through it. I've cracked jokes with it because I frankly think that a lot of these guys, I'm not trying to make light of the victims, of course, because a lot of the things that happen, especially things like Sandy Hook, hit close to home. All right, that's why I said that in the beginning. A lot of these guys wanted to go down in history as a badass, and they're not. They're all just sad, lonely, pathetic individuals who felt like they were unloved and felt like they were unworthy of life and felt like the world betrayed them. And they did not have a world betray them. The world is cruel and mad to everyone. It is only them who betrayed the world, and they betrayed themselves because they couldn't find any more kindness left in them, and so all they had to give was hate. And that's what happened to these people, is all they had was hate left to give, and then they gave all the hate they could in the worst way possible. And even when researching this video, I'm continuing to talk about, even though I said my voice was going in, it is. Even in researching this video, all right, I got results for a school shooting that happened literally 10 hours ago. News headlines are still popping up from a day ago, 2 days ago. AI is encouraging people to shoot up schools now, or to kill people. And the loneliness epidemic for our young people, doesn't matter what age, is getting worse. And it seems like humanity is leaving out the door for these people. And the last thing we need is more hate and vile vitriol to be spread to our young people, because that is really what pushes these people to the brink and turns normal people who may have had a successful or even a normal life into monsters. And I don't like to use the word monsters because, in fact, everyone's human. All right. The thing that's most scary about all this stuff is that these people aren't monsters. They are people. All right. Dylan and Eric and Nicholas, as much as everyone hates them, as much as I think they're all scumbags, they're people and they're human. They did this. And it takes a extreme amount of hate and abuse and strife in order for someone to get to the point where they want to hurt the world and the people around them in such a direct way like this. And it needs to be solved, and it needs to be stopped. And of course, I'm not a lawmaker, and I'm gonna not cry on camera, and I'm gonna say that I'm gonna end it here, and I'm gonna say that it needs to be stopped, and I hope that are I hope that the people who make our laws can stop being partisan and start being proactive for people's lives, for kids that die every day. It's not just adults dying, it's not just random people dying, it's schools, it's elementary schools getting shot and killed. Kids. Kids. If you're pro-life, maybe keep going with your pro-life and save the kids who are in the schools getting shot with guns. If you are for kids and you're for education, maybe save them so that they can get an education. All right, there are people who try to help this country as best as they can. They need to help our young people first. We need to help our young people so they don't become like this, and we need to help our young people from the people who have already became like this. I don't think I have anything else to say. So thank you all for watching, and I hope the next video will be a much more positive one, or a much more lighthearted one. I didn't mean for it to get so grim at the end. I hope you all have a good rest of your day when you finish watching this video. Goodbye.